Have you ever woken up from a dream and thought, wait, what just happened? Maybe you were flying. Maybe you were talking to someone you haven't seen for years. Maybe you were running from something, but your legs wouldn't move. Or maybe you were somewhere completely impossible. A strange city, a strange house, a place you've never seen before. And for a few seconds after waking up, the dream felt completely real. Then, it started to disappear.
You tried to remember it. You closed your eyes. You thought about the people, the place, the conversation. But somehow, you couldn't remember. A few minutes later, almost everything was gone. Pretty strange, right? But here's something even stranger. You probably dream more often than you think. In fact, you may dream several times during one night. You just don't remember most of them. So today, we're going to explore one of the most interesting mysteries of the human mind. Why do we dream? What happens inside our brain when we sleep? Why are dreams sometimes completely crazy? Why do we dream about people we haven't seen for years? Why do we have nightmares? Can dreams predict the future? And what if you could actually control your dreams? Before we start, I have a question for you. Do you usually remember your dreams? If you do, write "I remember" in the comments. If you usually forget them, write "I forget." Let's see which one is more common. Now, get comfortable. Because for the next hour, we're going inside the strange world that your brain creates while you sleep. Let's start with something simple. When you sleep, what happens to your body? You close your eyes, your body becomes relaxed. You stop thinking about work, school, or your daily problems. But does your brain stop working? Not at all. Your brain is still very active. In some ways, sleep is like a night shift for your brain. While you are resting, your brain continues doing important work. It processes information, it works with memories, it controls many parts of your body. And sometimes, it creates dreams. During the night, we move through different stages of sleep. Some sleep is light, some sleep is deep, and one important stage is called REM sleep. REM means rapid eye movement. During REM sleep, your eyes can move quickly under your closed eyelids. Your brain can also become very active, and this is one stage when vivid dreams often happen. Here's something interesting. Your brain can create a very active experience while your body stays almost completely still. Imagine dreaming that you're playing football. Inside your dream, you're running. You're jumping, you're kicking the ball. But in your bedroom, you're just lying there. Your brain has systems that reduce normal muscle movement during REM sleep. That's a good thing, because if your body moved exactly like it does in your dreams, sleeping could become very dangerous. Imagine dreaming that you're swimming and suddenly jumping out of bed because you think you're in a swimming pool. Not very comfortable. So while you sleep, your brain is doing something amazing. It creates an experience without requiring your body to physically experience it. And this leads to our first big question. If our brain is so active during sleep, why does it create dreams at all? We'll get to that. But first, I want to know something about you. When you sleep, do you usually sleep very deeply, or do you wake up several times during the night? Tell me in the comments, deep sleeper or light sleeper? Now we come to the biggest question. Why do we dream? The surprising answer is, scientists don't have one final answer. There are several ideas. One theory is that dreams are connected to memory. Think about your day. You see hundreds of faces. You hear conversations. You read messages. You learn new information. You experience emotions. You solve problems. Your brain receives an enormous amount of information. During sleep, your brain processes some of this information.
Dreams may sometimes be part of this process. For example, imagine you have an important English test tomorrow. You study for several hours. Then you go to bed. That night, you might dream that you're sitting in the classroom. You look at the test, you read the first question, and suddenly, you don't understand anything. Everyone else is writing. You're still looking at the first question. Then you wake up. Your heart is beating quickly. You think, oh, thank goodness, it was only a dream. This kind of dream may be connected to stress and emotion.
Another theory is that dreams help us process our feelings. Maybe you had an argument with someone. Maybe you're worried about money. Maybe you're excited about a trip. Maybe you're nervous about meeting someone. You go to sleep, but your emotions don't simply disappear. Your brain may continue processing them, and sometimes they appear in your dreams. But dreams don't always show emotions in a logical way. You might feel nervous in a dream, while the dream itself is about something completely ridiculous. Maybe you're nervous because you're trying to buy a sandwich. Why? You have no idea.
That's one of the strange things about dreams. Your emotions can be real, even when the story makes absolutely no sense. So here's today's question. Do you think dreams have meaning? Maybe you believe dreams are connected to our emotions. Maybe you think dreams are simply random. There is no right answer here. Tell me what you think in the comments. Dreams have meaning or dreams are random? And let's continue. Have you ever had a dream that made absolutely no sense? Maybe you were at school, but your teacher was your neighbor. Then suddenly, you were in a supermarket. Then the supermarket became an airport. Then you were flying. And somehow, you thought all of this was completely normal. If you were awake, you would probably stop and say, "This makes no sense." But in a dream, you don't always question it. Why? One possible reason is that the brain works differently during dreaming. Some areas related to emotion can be very active. Other areas related to logical thinking may not work in exactly the same way as when you're awake. So your brain doesn't always say, "Wait a second, this is impossible." Instead, it simply accepts the story. This is why dreams can combine completely different memories. A person from your childhood can appear in your current home. Your current boss can suddenly become your school teacher. Your bedroom can have a door that doesn't exist, and you don't think it's strange until you wake up. Then you think, why was my boss teaching me math in my grandmother's house? Dreams are almost like a movie created by your brain. But this movie doesn't have to follow normal rules. The locations can change. The characters can change. Time can move strangely. You can suddenly be younger. You can suddenly be older. You can even become someone else. And while it is happening, it can feel completely real. That's why dreams are so fascinating. Your brain can create a world, and for a short time, you believe that world is real. Now, I want to hear from you.
What is the strangest dream you can remember? And don't worry if it sounds crazy. That's the whole point. Tell us what happened in the comments. Maybe your dream is even stranger than mine.
Here's something that happens to millions of people. You wake up, you know you had a dream, you can almost remember it. You think, I need to remember this. You close your eyes, you try to replay the dream, and it's gone. Maybe you remember one person, or one place, or one sentence. But most of the dream has disappeared. Why? One reason is that dreams aren't always stored in memory in the same way as normal experiences. Dreams can also change very quickly. One moment you're at home. The next moment you're on a train. Then you're at the beach. Then you're talking to someone who doesn't exist. There's no normal story structure. This can make the dream difficult to remember. There's also another important factor: what you do immediately after waking up. Imagine you wake up and immediately check your phone. You see 5 messages. Then you open Instagram. Then you check the news. Then you start thinking about work. Your brain quickly fills with new information, and the dream may disappear.
But if you stay still for a few seconds, you may remember more. Try this tomorrow morning. Don't move immediately. Don't check your phone. Keep your eyes closed. Ask yourself, what was I just dreaming about? Start with the feeling. Then think about the location. Then the people. Then the events. You might be surprised. A dream that seemed completely forgotten may suddenly return. Here's a challenge for you. Tomorrow morning, before touching your phone, try to remember your dream. Then come back to this podcast and tell me, did it work?
Now let's talk about something mysterious. Have you ever dreamed about something and then experienced something similar later? Maybe you dreamed about an old friend. The next day, that friend contacted you. Or maybe you dreamed about a place, and weeks later, you visited a similar place. It can feel strange, almost like your dream knew what was going to happen. But can dreams really predict the future? There isn't strong scientific evidence showing that ordinary dreams can predict future events. But there are reasons dreams can sometimes feel like predictions. First, coincidence.
We have many dreams. Most of them don't come true. But when one dream seems to match something that happens later, we remember it. Imagine you dream about 10 different things. 9 dreams mean nothing, but one seems to match something that happens the next day. Which one will you remember? Probably that one. This is normal. Our brains are very good at finding connections. Sometimes, however, a dream can help you notice something that you were already thinking about. Maybe you've been worried about a decision. Your brain continues working on the problem while you sleep. Then you have a dream related to it. The dream didn't necessarily predict the future. Your brain may simply have been processing information you already had.
So, are dreams predictions? Probably not in the magical sense, but they can sometimes reveal what is already happening inside your mind. Now, it's your turn. Have you ever had a dream that later seemed to come true? If yes, tell me what happened. I would love to read your story. Now, let's move into the darker side of dreams. Nightmares. You're sleeping peacefully. Suddenly, you're running. Someone is chasing you. You don't know who. You try to run faster, but your legs feel heavy. You look behind you.
The person is getting closer. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. Then, you wake up. Your heart is beating fast. You look around your room. Everything is quiet. You take a deep breath, and you realize it was just a dream. But why do nightmares happen? There are many possible reasons. Stress can play a role. Fear can play a role. Difficult experiences can play a role. Even things you watch or read before bed may affect your dreams. Imagine watching a scary movie at midnight. Then you immediately go to sleep. Your brain may continue thinking about the story, and perhaps the monster from the movie appears in your dream. But nightmares aren't always about monsters. Sometimes they are about ordinary situations. You may dream about failing an exam, being late, losing your phone, missing a flight, being unable to find your home. These situations aren't dangerous in real life, but they can represent feelings of stress or fear. And here's something interesting. Many people around the world have similar types of dreams. Falling, being chased, being late, losing control, being unprepared. Maybe you've experienced one of these. So tell me, what's the most common nightmare you've ever had? Were you falling, running, being chased, or something completely different? Share it in the comments. Now imagine this. You haven't talked to someone for 10 years. You haven't seen them. You haven't even thought about them recently. Then suddenly, they appear in your dream. Why? Your brain stores an enormous number of memories. Faces, names, voices, places, conversations. Even if you don't consciously think about someone, your brain can still remember them. During a dream, your brain can bring old memories back. But here's the interesting question. Does dreaming about someone mean you miss them? Not necessarily. Sometimes the person may simply be connected to a memory or emotion. For example, imagine you dream about your best friend from school. Maybe you haven't spoken to that person in years. The dream might not really be about your friend. Your brain may be remembering a time in your life. Maybe you were happy then. Maybe you felt free. Maybe you were nervous about the future. Maybe you were learning something important. The person is connected to those memories. So your brain uses that person in the dream. It's almost like your brain has a huge library, and during dreaming, it randomly, or perhaps not so randomly, takes books from different parts of the library. One book is from your childhood, another is from last week, another is from yesterday, and it puts them all into one strange story. That's why someone you haven't seen for years can suddenly appear. Now, I have a personal question for you. Who is the strangest person you've ever seen in a dream? An old friend? A teacher? A celebrity? Someone you haven't thought about for years? Tell me in the comments. Now, let's imagine something incredible. You're dreaming. You're walking through your neighborhood. Everything looks normal. Then you notice something strange. You look at your hands, and you have 6 fingers. You think, wait a minute. You look around. The sky is purple. Your house is in the wrong place. And suddenly you realize, I'm dreaming! Now, imagine knowing that you're dreaming while you're still dreaming. This is called lucid dreaming. A lucid dream happens when you become aware that you are dreaming. Some people can even control parts of the dream. They can fly, change locations, talk to dream characters, explore imaginary places. Imagine having a dream about a beautiful beach. Normally, you simply experience the dream. But if you're lucid, you might think, I'm dreaming. I want to go somewhere else. And suddenly, you're standing on top of a mountain. Sounds amazing, right? But lucid dreaming isn't always easy. Knowing that you're dreaming doesn't mean you have complete control. Sometimes you try to fly and fall. You try to change the location, but nothing happens. You try to talk to someone, and they disappear. Dreams have their own strange logic. That's part of the fun. Some people naturally have lucid dreams. Others practice techniques to increase their chances. One simple technique is to regularly ask yourself during the day, am I dreaming? Look around. Pay attention. Check your surroundings. If you make this a habit, you may eventually ask the same question in a dream. And if the answer is yes, you may become lucid. Now, here's the big question. If you could control your dream tonight, what would you do? Would you fly? Travel to another country? Meet someone famous? Go back to your childhood? Or do something completely impossible? Tell me your dream plan in the comments. Let's return to something we talked about earlier. Some people wake up and say, I had the craziest dream. They can remember every detail. Other people wake up and say, I don't think I dreamed. But here's the thing. They probably did. They simply don't remember. So why are some people better at remembering dreams? One reason may be when they wake up. If you wake up during or just after a vivid dream, you're more likely to remember it. If you wake up later, the memory may already be gone. Another reason may be attention. If you care about your dreams, you may become better at remembering them. It's like learning someone's name. If you hear a person's name but don't pay attention, you may forget it immediately. But if you repeat the name several times, you remember it. Dreams can be similar. If you wake up and immediately think, what did I dream about? You are giving your brain a chance to keep the memory. This is why some people keep dream journals. They write down their dreams immediately after waking. Sometimes they write pages. Sometimes they write only a few words. For example, beach, old friend, red car, flying, happy. That's enough. After a few weeks, they may notice patterns. Maybe they often dream about water. Maybe they often dream about being late. Maybe the same person appears again and again. Maybe they remember more dreams than before. So here's a challenge. Tonight, put a notebook next to your bed. When you wake up tomorrow, write down 3 things from your dream, even if they seem meaningless. Then tell me, did you remember more than usual? We've talked about many questions, but there are still some fascinating things about dreams. For example, have you ever dreamed about a place you've never seen? Maybe you dreamed about a huge building, a strange street, a beautiful forest, a city you've never visited. Where did your brain get that place? Your brain may create new places by combining pieces of places you've already seen. Maybe one building comes from a movie. Another part comes from your school. The street comes from a city you visited. Your brain combines them and creates somewhere new. It's like a puzzle. Another interesting thing is sound. You can hear music in dreams. You can hear people talking. Sometimes you even have conversations. And sometimes you wake up and realize the conversation was completely impossible. But while you were dreaming, it felt normal. Dreams can also create very strong emotions. You can feel love, fear, excitement, embarrassment, happiness, sadness. Sometimes you wake up from a dream feeling an emotion that stays with you for hours. You may not remember the story, but you remember the feeling. And perhaps that is one of the most interesting things about dreams. Maybe the story isn't always important. Maybe the emotion is. So I want to ask you one final question before we finish. Which emotion do you feel most often in your dreams? Happiness? Fear? Confusion? Excitement? Sadness? Or something else? Write just one word in the comments. So, why do we dream? We still don't have the complete answer, but maybe that's what makes dreams so fascinating. Tonight, when you close your eyes, remember this. Your brain may be creating an entire world while you sleep. So, what would you dream about if you could choose? Tell me in the comments. Good night and sweet dreams.